Okay, we're live. Okay, three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 164, and we're going to title this Traveling Security. Now, first off, I don't actually know when this will be released, but the reason for this is that I'm going away abroad, specifically to Israel. I don't want to tell you when I'm going, but if we're recording this early, you can probably figure this out. So we brought Tom here. Tom travels probably a lot domestically, but I'm sure we can figure out how to travel abroad safely and securely without giving you too much pain. Now, I'll just start off. We're not going crazy here like you need to erase everything and rebuild and all this crazy stuff. We're going to talk simple. You're traveling. What are the bare minimum things you can do? And we'll go from there.
So I think the kind of rule number one, and we talk about this a lot on this show, is don't make yourself a target, right? If you are walking around, in like a decked out business suit and you've got, an iPad Pro or Surface Pro in one hand and your $5,000 camera with the giant lens in the other hand, and you clearly look like a tourist, you're probably making yourself a target. You're probably adding unnecessary risk. The best advice I've seen when traveling internationally is don't be flashy and try to blend in.
Yeah, figure out what the weather is, figure out what people wear, figure out all these things, and try and look like the natives. Because, again, even if you do look flashy, you're going to go to the stores and you're going to get ripped off. People are going to know, oh, this is a tourist, especially the tourist traps, like the beach or the big hotels by the airports, all those things. They're going to know, and you're going to get taken advantage of because you don't know the language, you don't know the customs, you don't know the money, all this other stuff. So as simple as possible.
Yeah, one great tip, and I wish I knew the name of the person that did this. I read a blog post years and years ago where someone took a really expensive camera with them, but they didn't want to get ripped off. They didn't want to get mugged and have their gear stolen. So they took a bunch of painter's tape, wrapped it around the camera, scuffed it up the paint with like some dirt and some oil, just basically made it look like a really terribly taken care of camera that was barely held together with this painter's tape. And it worked perfectly. It was a great camera. It did all of its functions, admirably, but no one gave it a second look because you look at it and you're like, oh, wow, that's a trash device. How is it even still functioning? So that's one thing you can do.
It's again, this is a lot of pre-planning and everything else. And I want to add that I'm flying with kids, so we have other issues there. So I always like to compartmentalize, take as little as needed and have insurance on everything. So when I say insurance, make sure call your credit cards, everything, let them know you're going. But I would carry as little as cash as possible. Carry only the amount of money already converted as you need. And I found out my local TD Bank branch. So your local bank, if you call them ahead of time, they'll probably convert some money before you leave so you don't get ripped off there.
I did not know that. That is fantastic. So converting money at an airport, you're probably paying some high dollar fees there. I personally haven't done it, so I can't speak to it.
Yes, if you go to the airport, you're definitely getting ripped off. The problem is you need something right there. And who knows if Uber you can check ahead of time if Uber or Lyft is in the area. If they take they'll take credit cards, whatever it is. But the best bet is call your credit cards. You got to call them anyway to let them know you're going on, which is not even security advice. It's just traveling 101. You don't want to be at a restaurant with the credit cards declined because you're outside your normal zone.
Yep.
And without cell phones, which we'll get into in a second. So you want to have some money. And again, on a whim, my wife actually called up TD Bank, and TD Bank said this branch, the one right by my house, actually does the conversion for you. It takes about a week. You tell them how much, and they'll get you, I'm assuming, a better rate than at the airport, or if you had to go do it yourself.
One thing that I always do, and granted, I don't have any data to back this up. So let me make that clear. This is absolutely just word of mouth from me. I am not an expert on how these things work. But one thing I always do is whatever credit card I'm using when I travel, and I usually keep it limited to one card, try to minimize the risk. I will use that card at the airport before I take off, just kind of as a signaling measure that says, hey, I'm at an airport. I've bought something here before I take off. That way I don't just show up in another state, and the credit card company would get freaked out.
That's actually a really good idea. And very famously,
I don't know if it actually works that way, but that's what I do, and I've never had an issue with any of my cards.
so I mean, other than getting ripped off for your bottle of water, but
Well, yeah, it's like a $75 bottle of water, but it keeps my card active.
I mean, maybe you can buy like a Bitcoin transaction like right before you get on. So John C. Dvorak famously said the quickest way to kill a credit card is to fill up 2 gas tanks and a pair of running shoes. That will instantly kill the credit card with fraud prevention. And I haven't done exactly that, but yes, that absolutely does work. But anyway, if you don't want to kill your credit card, like we said, call the credit card company. That's actually a really good idea. Buy something at the airport right before you leave. Also, when you call the credit cards, figure out what their foreign transaction fees are, because some of them are different. Like everyone used to say American Express was great. It turns out my Visa card's actually really, really good. So I'm going to take those 2 and leave everything else at home.
Yeah, so there's a lot of pre-planning. Specifically for device security, though. So what are you doing? Because you're traveling internationally.
So I don't want to get into, I'm not going to swap out hard drives. Like if you really want to be good, and I heard Steve Gibson talk about this a few weeks ago, so it's not too old. Basically, take a laptop, replace the hard drive. So buy another solid state hard drive or whatever it is, put whatever you need on there, go to the country, whatever it is, when you make a clone before you leave, and then when you come back, take that hard drive that you replaced out, the new one, and throw it out, because at that point you assume it's compromised. Okay, that's a lot of work. I'm not going to do that. I mean, I don't want to. That's a lot of work. That's at least $100 on a SSD. Then you have to spend there doing whatever it is, and you're compartmentalizing. That's the right way to do it, because you're going to once you cross border patrol or you go through customs, and you can't assume that anything is safe. So especially if they search you. So that's what he said. Take a different drive and then throw it out, and you have your backup and everything else. But for me, I don't think we're going to travel with a laptop. If we do, we're taking actually my school issued Chromebook, because you can just wipe it at the end. We don't really need anything. We both have iPads. As far as we're going to take our iPads. We have an encrypted backup at home. And we have the kids, so we need something for them to do. As far as our phones, we just got new phones, so we were going to go with our old phones. I'm taking off any app that I don't need. I'm going to take off any profile I don't need. So like basically I'll have one email address. I'm going to take off the fingerprint lock. I'm going to have my PIN code on there, and like take off Dropbox, take off Google Drive, only go with things I do know. And I'm hoping that's probably good enough.
So this can also apply to traveling to, dangerous is probably too strong of a word, but an adversarial location. So let's say you're traveling to DEF CON, right? You're going to a hacker convention. I know somebody who takes their phone, does a full USB backup. You can do that with iPhones. You can do it with Android, believe it or not. And wipes their phone completely, and then just uses it as kind of a not logged into anything except one emergency burner email account that they've created for themselves, and that's it. So if somebody absolutely needs to get a hold of them, they are able to, but other than that, they don't use their phone for anything sensitive. And then when they get back, wipe the phone, restore the backup, everything's good.
I mean, yeah, you can go and buy if you don't have an old phone to use. I mean, what I should do is I should take the old phones and completely wipe them and start fresh. But again, I'm not going to an adversarial country. I'm going to a place that's, I'm going to Israel. I'm Jewish. I'm not worried about them checking everything. I'm not worried about them coming back, but just in case I want to have something to deal with. So we're just not wiping our phones. We have them, but when we come back, we'll figure out what we're going to do. But we have removed all the sensitive apps and everything else.
Yeah, so there are definitely ways to minimize and compartmentalize your risk. You can go as far as, I know people go to DEF CON with burner dumb phones. They will actually go to their cell phone provider, buy a flip phone, buy a new SIM card on a separate account, and go to DEF CON with a dumb phone that they can text and call on, and that's it. Personally, I think that's a little extreme, but I get it. I totally understand it. And if you're willing to, pay the money and hamper yourself in that way when it comes to convenience, then go for it if it makes you feel better.
It's more of, and obviously we understand why they do it. I mean, you can't talk about security and not walk the walk. So that's why they do it. But when you have to be a little realistic, you don't have the time. I don't have the time to sit there and, like you said, clone hard drives and clone backups. It's not hard, but to do that, what's the threat model? And my threat model is I don't want to be questioned. And if I'm questioned, I don't want everything out in the open. So I just take the stuff I don't want out in the open, not necessarily because it's bad, just because I don't need it out in the open, and just and deal with that. I don't need to answer questions. Why do you have 3 different emails? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? Just let them not see it and be done with it.
Yeah. So some of the things that have been going around on Twitter in the past is, oh yeah, we'll only take a totally wiped phone through Border Patrol. They won't have anything on you then. Listen, these people aren't idiots, right? If they see a completely wiped, completely blank device, they know, okay, you're traveling to another location, you're going to restore from backup, and you're probably going to be questioned even further at that point. So I have seen people that actually create fake Facebook and Twitter accounts, and they post stupid stuff like sports scores or pictures of their kids, or like just really innocent, boring social media stuff, just to kind of create a fake persona that they can use to get past border security. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm not saying you should even be worried about this in the majority of cases. Most of us don't have anything that's really worth protecting that much, but it is an option.
I mean, I don't post anything too sensitive on Twitter and Facebook anyway, just because it's being political on Twitter at these days is just opening yourself up to harassment just from inside the country. I don't need it from outside. I don't need people scrutinizing this. And plus, so with that said, I don't care that much. But like you said, Border Patrol knows this, and people say this. Yes, you can be detained for hours and days and everything else to prove a point, or you can just give them the password. I'm not going to tell you which one to do, but I'm traveling with kids, and the last thing I need in either country is me being detained because I'm high and mighty, which again, you have to weigh that risk.
Yeah, so if you're guarding, international secrets, and you're a super spy, and the information you have on your phone could, result in the destruction of humanity or a nation, yeah, you should probably not give up your password. That said, if you got detained by Border Control, you're probably not a very good super spy in the first place. That said, think about the risk. Think about what you care about. I mean, frankly, if somebody got a hold of my Signal messages, they're going to see the message that I sent to my buddy earlier today saying, hey, do you want a game later? I've got some time and we can totally co-op run through this whole game. To me, that's not very sensitive data. I send it through Signal because we both have it.
And that's another good point. I mean, well, before we get there, for example, some NASA JPL employee had all his devices confiscated at the border after coming back from Peru, and now that JPL is suing Border Patrol and everything else. This is going to be worked down the courts. Unfortunately, there's no precedent yet, so we have to take a while. But like you said, I have Signal. Somebody wants to do it. Again, it's up to you whether to provide the password or not. I don't want to be detained, so I'll give it to them, and they're not going to find much. If the question is, why do you use Signal? The answer is, I just want to be private. I don't trust the SMS system, but there's nothing hidden there. You're allowed to be private without doing anything and doing good at the same time. I mean, those things are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, it's a common argument that keeps getting shot down over and over and over again. And the argument is wanting or requiring privacy implies guilt or implies that you're hiding something. And that is absolutely 100% not the case. There are absolutely private moments in everyone's lives that they don't want to be public, but it's not necessarily because they're hiding something or they're nefarious. It's just some people have parts of their life that are private. right? If I wanted to just rock out to all of the Taylor Swift songs, or if I just really enjoy Nickelback a whole lot, right? That's something I probably don't want public, but it's not necessarily nefarious. It just means I have bad taste in music.
And so, and I mean, Bruce Schneier said in his book, I was just finished looking through it. You go to the bathroom, you close the door. Why? Because you just want your own personal time.
No, that's false. You're clearly hiding something. Yeah. There's something nefarious going on.
And so, or when you're meditating or you're doing yoga or wherever else, sometimes you just want to be left alone and you just want no one to bother you. And again, you're not doing anything bad. You just want to be left alone. And you know what? Whether I'm sending my wife, is it stupid love notes? I kind of don't want malicious actors like taking those. I mean, so we use Signal or whatever else. And you know what? You can say Signal has better features than the SMS system.
Yeah, it's really just a better experience than texting anyway. So why wouldn't you use something end-to-end encrypted?
And here's another one. So I have T-Mobile. I love T-Mobile. I mean, this is not an ad for T-Mobile, but they're giving me free data abroad. And I just told all my friends, don't call or text message me. Please use WhatsApp. Please download Signal. Please use anything other than phone call or SMS, because its data is not fast, but at least it's free.
Yeah, and somebody texting you overseas or calling you overseas can be extremely expensive.
With that said, if you don't have T-Mobile, that's the other thing. You're going to a foreign country. You may want to have you want an unlocked phone or whatever it is. Find out where you can get a cheap SIM card, because nowadays, I was just thinking about this. How am I going to get from the airport to our hotel without internet, just in case T-Mobile fails? Like just in case I get off the plane and it's like, we don't know where you are. You can't do anything. Your GPS is on your phone because we don't have standalone GPSs anymore. What do you do? So Google allows you to download the maps and everything else. So at least I have that to the hotel, and then we can figure it out.
Yeah, due to several things internationally and economically, buying a SIM card in another country is generally really cheap. You can generally, get a temporary, 1 week, 30 days of data, something like that, for just absolutely trivial amounts of money to use when you're traveling. And on top of that, it prevents the accidental thing of, oh no, I accidentally turned off airplane mode on day 3 of my trip, and now I've got a $7,000 bill from AT&T.
And again, it's another way to compartmentalize your security, because again, if you brought a burner phone just for that and you're getting a SIM card there, you're not going to have all your data. I mean, you may log into Facebook and Twitter and everything else, but again, that's your trip there and you chose to do that. So, but we're lucky T-Mobile gives it to us. And they did say to turn off roaming, or turn on roaming, which is a little scary because, like you said, you don't want it to automatically connect to a different cell network and cause a ton of data charges.
Yeah, that is a little worrisome. Luckily, in my travels, I haven't had to really worry about that.
So, are we worried about TSA going through our stuff or not really?
I mean, no. That said, if you're taking a laptop or electronic devices, don't put them in your checked bags. I mean, beyond the security implications, right? Security implications, let's just throw those out the window. Have you seen what happens to your checked luggage? That stuff literally gets thrown around. It gets chucked into a plane. It falls off the little carts they've got going by. It is not treated well, right? Packing clothes and stuff in there and shampoo bottles, whatever, who cares? But throwing a laptop in there, especially something without an SSD, is begging for trouble.
I don't think you're actually allowed to do that. I think they said now all lithium-ion batteries is required you have to take it with you.
That's a good point. So yeah, keep your sensitive electronics on you. Yes, they will get put through an X-ray machine. I don't think there's anything to worry about there. Yeah.
I mean, the next thing is when you go through security, just answer their questions. Just try your best to answer their questions. Don't get them mad at you, because when they're mad at you, bad things happen.
Be polite. I know some people really love to show their that they can protest and opt out and make some TSA guy grab them all over. You can, right? If showing your protest right is that important to you, you absolutely can. Just know that you're not making any friends, and you're definitely not making your day or their day any easier. I try to be nice to security because there's no better guy to be friends with in the airport than the TSA people, right? I don't like them. They are security theater. They offer literally no benefit. They're 95% ineffective. We are paying them to do literally nothing. Having, some janitor stand there would probably be more effective than the TSA as a whole. Let me just get that out of the way. But making them angry and making yourself an enemy of the TSA does not help your security, and it doesn't help your general travel experience.
So do you remember Google I/O 2012 when we went? So
yeah.
So this is just a really quick story. So we're all leaving SFO. So 5,000 of us are all leaving SFO. And this is when Google released their Nexus Q, which looks like a magic 8-ball if you still have it around, with no dials and no nothing, and it was heavy. So I was early, and this is when the cancer scare of the backscatter machines where you hold your arms up was going on. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to opt out. And it was no big deal, but they threw my bags through the metal, and they had to look through them. And all the questions. Did you receive a gift that you're unsure about? Yeah, Google gave me a bunch of gifts. And the lady looks at this Nexus Q, and she's like, "What's this?" And I go, "I don't know. Like, I don't know what it is. Nobody knew what this device was."
It is. So the Nexus Q, you can go to Google Images and look up images of this thing. It is a black orb with a bunch of ports on the back and a bunch of wires in a box. It looks like an old school cartoon bomb, like a big circle bomb with like a wick coming out of it. Just the flight back out of San Francisco was ridiculous because we were all flying back at roughly the same time, thousands of people trying to get on planes to go home. And we all had these Google branded cartoon bombs in our checked luggage. The TSA did not have a good day.
I mean, and then but what they got me for, they didn't get me for that. They didn't get me for the tablet. They didn't get me for anything else. They got me for a foldable corkscrew because I was in Napa earlier that week. And they're looking in, they're like, they saw the bottle of wine, which apparently you couldn't take with you. And I'm like, okay, lost the bottle of wine. And then they're like, we still noticed something else. And I'm like, what could it possibly be? And they said, you're not talking about the corkscrew. Yes, you can't take that with you. And again, the security theater. So we had to find this foldable corkscrew. You take out the Nexus Q, they don't care. They take out the Nexus 7, they didn't care. The Galaxy Nexus, none of that mattered. It was the foldable corkscrew that went through it.
Yeah, I mean, there's normal things that you don't want on an airplane, right? You don't want machetes on an airplane. You don't want guns on an airplane. I totally get it. But who is taking over successfully? Who is successfully hijacking an airplane with a corkscrew? Frankly, if you hijack an airplane with a corkscrew, you probably deserve the airplane.
If you're successful. So then a few years ago, I think 3 years ago, with my youngest son, or my oldest son now, we flew to California. And turns out when you have a baby, the rules are all different for you. So my wife makes the baby food, and they didn't care that we had 20 or 30 little 4-ounce jars of opened baby food. They weren't sealed. Nobody cared. The water, I was able to take, I don't know, a couple Poland Spring bottles, because all under the guise of it was for the baby. Like, the rules don't apply. And when we talk about security theater, that's what we're talking about. If you're going to have one thing, make it for everybody. And and I don't know, they could have said you need to have this or you need to have that or whatever else. But open baby food, nobody cares. Open water, I had 12 ounces of water. That's clearly taboo. But they didn't care.
Yeah, we got to skip a bunch of the TSA stuff when we were taking our rabbits through to move to Seattle. And they said, hey, you're going to have to hold your pet. And for those of you who aren't familiar with pet rabbits, Some of them, and it depends on their personality, are not holdable. If we were to open that cage, they would scatter, and there would be an airport full of people chasing after a rabbit, or two rabbits rather. So we had to go get pulled into a back room while they did a bomb swab over just all of the rabbit containers. And the stuff they found were, hey, look, there's hay. Yes, rabbits eat hay. Hey, look, it's got traces of rabbit. Yes, rabbits have traces of rabbit.
Look, in all honesty, as much as that annoys me, I don't mind it. It's like, okay, they're trying to, again, people are trying to do their job. But going in there saying, oh, your job is stupid, you don't do anything, and giving everyone the flight attendants a hard time and everything else.
Most of the TSA understand that they're not protecting anything, right? It's a day job like anything else, and they're just trying to get through it. So it's like if the cook messes up your order at a restaurant, don't take it out on the waitress or the waiter. The TSA, by yelling at low-level employees, you are not going to enact change. By protesting to low-level employees, you are not going to fix anything. They know the system is broken just as much as you do.
And then finally, when you get on the plane, you know what? When you're on the plane, the rules again on planes are way different. Anything constitutes probable cause. And because you're in this flying box, this flying tube, if the flight attendants get mad at you, they will emergency land at the next airport and kick you off, where FBI and all these other places are going to be. So again, it's just because you're right doesn't make it right. Just go along, go with the flow. And we've all had our share of really obnoxious flight attendants, but just try and sit back in the really uncomfortable chair and deal with it.
Yeah. So, to sum it all up, don't take super expensive devices. If you do, make sure you've got insurance. Try to blend in. Try to not make a target out of yourself. Don't be flashing around your iPad Pro or Surface Pro everywhere, or your iPhone X if you've got one of those. If you do take an expensive camera, try to, throw some tape around it, dirty it up a little bit, make it blend in. Yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, take backups. Take backups of all the data you're taking with you, just because, stuff happens. You don't want to lose it.
Oh, I forgot. So hold your mail. So before you leave, USPS, tell them to hold your mail. It was on online form, no problems. My township, if you call the police department, they send you a form to say they'll send some police officers while on duty to drive by your house or your apartment or whatever else.
Oh, that's nice.
So I got to fill that out. I got to drop it off. So I actually have to go somewhere. But so now I don't have to worry about the mail. I don't have to worry about this. And this is another good reason to know your neighbors, just to say, hey, the neighbors you trust. Hey, I'm going to be in and out the next week or two. Can you if you see anything strange, just let me know. I'm not saying to find the neighbor that you don't know and be like, yeah, I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. Find the neighbors you do trust. And they don't have to be a neighbor, just someone to drive by your house to see if they notice anything. So
yeah, I think those are kind of the high points. But if you've got specific questions, or you want to ask us anything, or even suggest tips that we can mention on later episodes of the show, join our WhatsApp group. It's fun. It's free. We talk a lot. We post some really cool memes and funny pictures, and we do talk about security
a lot. Most of the time.
Occasionally.
Well, most of the time we're pretty good. We don't. It's not a constant thing. If you're out for a day, you have no idea what's going on. We're pretty quiet in there, but when we get going, we're good. So anyway, so I don't know when this is going to come out, but we'll see. Anyway, I'll just tell everyone, let's have a good time, and probably 2 weeks. You probably won't hear from us for 2 weeks, but again, WhatsApp, we're there. Okay, everybody, have a good day.
See everyone.
Bye.